I mean, Blackula was good. That's probably the only black. I don't really watch horror, so that's why it's more difficult. But that was a really good movie, Blackula. And I've not watched Get Out, but I think it would be my favorite. I've heard a lot of really good things about it.
I think Us was such a masterpiece. I think it was like definitely something new.
Probably Us.
Us by Jordan Peele.
Probably say Us by Jordan
I
Peele.
think it's got some really good themes in it. I think it's interesting.
The plot twist at the end, I think, was magnificent.
That movie was eye-awakening just because of the racial inputs that was within the movie.
That was the first horror movie I've seen where black people weren't the, like the butt of the joke of the movie.
Especially the plot twist at the end.
I've got two. One is Tales from the Hood, and then the other one, I'm forgetting the name. It's actually more recent. Jordan Peele's work was the one about the psychologist. Get Out.
The perspective.
I would say Perspectives.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, it's the case with any art. What influences you influences the art that you put into the world. And the black experience is like a very subsuming thing for people.
I would say a black director is going to be able to pull from his own experiences, while a white director can't really accurately portray the black experience because they're not black. So I think a horror film discussing prejudice or racism, it would be more impactful from like a black director.
It's just different coming from a black director because he knows our struggles. He knows what we're going through.
You can't live in America and not have a different perspective because of the race that you are, because of the way that this country was founded.
I don't think a white director can give the same perspectives on people of color than a black director, just because of the different backgrounds, the different experiences.
That every black director does that. You can't not do that, in my opinion.
I think it has more to do with the experience of the director, meaning what their life experience is and how they portray whatever the subject matter is.
I don't know, any historical event though impacts film, even if it's like horror or fantasy, because like all film derives from some sense of reality.
There's an old saying that art imitates life. The idea that any sort of artistic expression is not going to be influenced by what's going on in the world geopolitically would be pretty naive to think there's no connection.
In like literature written for hundreds of years has been influenced by the way people think about black people and their place in the world, and that influenced the movies and everything that came after that, whether people wanted it to or not.
I definitely do think that historical events have affected, and probably many can say negatively, but I want to say positively, just because a lot of us are able to use platforms to speak out on such events that are still occurring today.
The reverberations of that history will ring out for probably ever. I don't know if you can ever extricate that stuff.
I would definitely say stereotypes.
We've done away with a lot of like the more overtly messed up stuff that we used to do in terms of like displaying and like depicting black people.
We'd always have the big lips, the big ears. We'd always be loud.
It's really just degrading to see that stereotypes are still being pressed on today, even when we try to fight it back. It's just really hard to see that.
I like to see what Jordan Peele changed, because back then it was a mess. It still is a mess.
Historically, the film Birth of a Nation from the early 20th century was an expression of the anti-black sentiments that existed at that time during the Wilson administration.
What was it? I think like Tarot, there was only 2 black people in it, or 1 black person and another person of color. And I was just looking, I was like, dang, he gonna die first. That was the first thought, which is kind of sad, but that was the first thought in a movie.
There was a period of time where I thought about it a lot, and it obviously bothered me a lot because the answer that you come out with from that is never like the answer that you want. It's like, oh, there's 90 people and one black person, and that's like pretty consistent across most pieces of media.
I am noticing in films, especially nowadays, including more diversity and a lot more ethnicities, and giving opportunities to actors who wouldn't have the same opportunity as a white person in the older times.
Yeah, like I can tell when a movie's not diverse. So I guess I can tell when a movie is diverse.
I would say now there is, but back then, no. There was a very lack of it. But yeah.
But when I see like more black people in movies, it doesn't matter what it is. It just makes me so happy because I'm like, look at them, all the black people being in this movie.
I guess I do, yeah. But I mean, I'm not really. I'm not taking count. I mean, like I'm not numerically saying, well, there's 1 or there's 4. I just notice if they're in the movie, and I also have to put it in the context. If I'm watching a movie about some period in history where there weren't a whole lot of black people in that situation, I don't expect to see large numbers of African people or black people.
Yeah, dozens, hundreds.
In fact, I use the phrase image and reality shapers. Unfortunately, there are many in the media industry who deliberately set out to shape reality and imagery of particular groups.
Well, whenever we did watch Blackula, I know we talked about how, like, the woman, for example, being, like, hysterical or, like, even angry. I guess that's an example, like, the black angry woman stereotype.
Like, just the stereotypes. Oh, of course, like us eating watermelon or chicken. They're like, black people gotta have this.
They're always loud. I remember in the movie, it was talking, like, the main antagonist of the movie that was just like the slave master. He was talking about how loud and outrageous the slaves were and how he tried to put them in order.
And it serves an economic function. It serves a social, political function. It even serves a psychological function. And depending upon those who are making the films, it can do things that reiterate the stereotypes, or it can do something that challenges them and lifts them up.
I know some white people, they would have made some joke about it. So that's just my thoughts.